Is 8:01. So good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Monday Morning Motivation. If you were with us at the 7 a.m. call, you know that this topic is fantastic and so important. If you just joined us today for the 8 a.m., good morning. We're happy to have you here. I'm Maria. I'm one of the founders of Monday Morning Motivation. The other co-founder is Janine, and we've been doing this for a couple of years. And if you don't know us, this is a community of people who are interested in self-development, in learning more about themselves and connecting with like-minded people. And we have these webinars every Monday at 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. with fantastic speakers like Mark today. So if you can see on the screen, we have our fantastic Monday Morning Motivation May lineup, which is what we're going to have as speakers this month. Which is really exciting. And we're gonna have Mark today, of course. Then we're gonna have Karina, who I think is in the call. We're gonna have her talk to us about trust next week, and then we're gonna have Michelle in the last Monday of May. So keep an eye on everything. If you are not in the WeChat Monday Morning Motivation WeChat groups, scan the QR code in the middle, and I will add you into the groups because that's where we share all the details of the upcoming events and so on and so forth. As I mentioned before, Monday Morning Motivation is a project that me and Janine both work on, and we're very proud of the community. It's grown so much since we started a couple of years ago, and we want to thank everybody for your support. All the webinars and all the Monday Motivation webinars are going to be always for free. But we had people ask if they can donate to the project, and the answer is yes. On the green flyer, you can find the donation QR code, and we give half of the proceeds to the 1 Million Tree Project, which is a project we've been working on for a while now. They help plant trees in Inner Mongolia, which is extremely important to help the environment and to do something to give back. If you missed any of the recording, you can find them in the yellow QR code. If you have any questions about that, or if it's not working, just contact me. We're finding a way to make it better and easier for everybody to get recording when you want. If you miss any of the webinars, we're going to launch that very soon at the fantastic party we're having. Because we're having a 2-year anniversary party for Monday Morning Motivation in Shanghai, May 30th. So if you are in Shanghai, you can make your way to Shanghai. Please join us. It's going to be very fun. A lot of people are going to be there. A lot of the past speakers, a lot of the people in the community. It's going to be a chill afternoon of snacks and drinks and meeting each other in person, which is always nice. So all the informations are in there. And if you guys don't know, me and Janine, we worked last year on this fantastic book, which is called 365 Days of Motivation. It's a workbook that you can have quotes and gratitude journaling and so on. We used it with a lot of different people. We have individuals using it, we have companies using it, and it's a great way for us to, well, I use it to remind myself of some quotes that I would like to have more inspiration, or maybe remind myself of my why in the morning. So if you're interested, all the information are on the screen, and that's enough blabbering from my side. So let me stop sharing. And Mark, I haven't made you co-host. That's extremely important. Done. There you go. Cool. So that was it for me in the introduction. Now I'll leave the floor to Mark, and I'm extremely excited about what Mark is going to talk about, because this is a topic we've talked a lot about in different ways, and it's so important. So Mark, please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Maria. Firstly, thanks, Maria and Janine, for giving me the opportunity to chat to something that's really important to me, and I've personally found really useful. A little bit of background about me: originally from Africa, from Zimbabwe, been here in Shanghai for 4 years with family, and we absolutely love it here. Full of amazing people, great city, and all of that side. Background-wise, I originally come from a business background, a qualified accountant, done a lot of business transformation, and I still do a lot of that stuff and do a lot of training, which I really enjoy, training and mentoring, and working to do some stuff with simulations to help train, which is a great way of learning. Right, to the point of what we are, the importance of knowing your why. What is your why? What's the fuel that makes you really tick? That's what we're trying to get to. Okay. I think some very common everyday situations. I'm sure we've all been there. We have days where we are really inspired about what we do and everything's fantastic and we see it in bright colors and it's really positive. Then other days we just feel a bit sort of not inspired at all, frustrated, fed up, and we see hurdles and problems instead of opportunities. And contrast that to the days where everything just falls into place. You don't seem to have to do anything and it just all just works. Why do we have these different feelings and reactions? Chances are, when you take a step back and look at your reaction to those different situations, you'll see in the days that we have a really positive reaction, there's lots that resonates, aligns with your values. If you can remember back a couple of weeks ago, Janine and Maria did a talk about values. What is it that's really important to you? And then on the days that weren't so good, I bet you'll see that very little resonated with you and you were very demotivated. Added to all of this, every day we are bombarded with all these external influences, whether what people say, it's our social media, all of these things telling us what we should think, what we should be, how we should do things. And actually, often that really doesn't have the result we want. It actually demotivates us. We see all these perfect people living a perfect life. We feel very unfulfilled. Why? Because those are external influences. They're not necessarily our internal influences. If we want to make a change, we've got to focus on our internal influences. At the end of the day, we're all on a journey to find personal fulfillment. Each of our journeys is different. And where we want to end up is that picture on the right, where we are inspired and energized by what we do and the company that we keep. That's where we all want to be. So we can jump out of bed and look forward to what that day is bringing. As I say, we could have a nice straight road, we could have a road with a few bends, or we could go around in lots of circles. How we get there, we do have some influence on. But we're all trying to get to the same place for ourselves individually. How can we influence that journey? What we need to do, and there's been lots of talks on this, is we need to focus on our internal drivers. To make lasting change, we need to focus on what drives us and what gives us fulfillment, what gives us joy, what makes us really happy, what gives us passion. That's what we need to focus on. If you think back where you've relied on external drivers to do something, what happens when they stop? You stop. Do you get any joy out of it? And now every day here, we get lots of these external drivers telling us what we should do. And we often end up following that, but never really very happy. But you get those other people who literally jump out of bed, who really look forward to the day. That's what we all want. It's not an unreasonable wish. So what's the difference? What makes it different to have those two experiences, from jumping out of bed and being wanting to go to work or do whatever, against, oh, off we go again? It all comes back to aligning with their values and what actually drives you, what fulfills you. A little bit of background about our thinking. I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, and I make no apologies for that. What he says resonates very much with me. He refers to 3 golden circles, as he puts it: what we do, how we do, and why we do things. So what do? We go to work, we might provide services, we might make things or something like that. How we do it, we're pretty good on that. We've probably got a good idea of what that happens. But do we really understand why we do it? Why do we go to work? What's the big driver? Some people might say, well, it's to earn money. Well, no, that's not quite that simple. The money gives us the ability to do things that we enjoy or that we want to do. So for me as a parent, That allows me to do things for the family, maybe go on a trip or give the kids a chance to go to a sports camp or something like that. That's what inspires me. That's why I do it, because I get the enjoyment from those things. So the money allows me to do that. So it's a bit deeper than we think. And really, it's what inside makes you happy. If you're happy, you'll do things much better. Well, if we look at our brain, and we probably had a few conversations and talks on this, we have the neocortex, which is our logical brain, where we're good with facts and figures and analysis and all of that side. But then the two really important parts, the how and why, are driven by what is called our limbic brain. Our limbic brain controls our behavior, decision making, feelings, gut feeling, trust, loyalty, making connections with people. We're all human, we're social people. Those connections are really important. For lots of us, that's the fuel that gets us going, those interactions. So the starting point is understanding your why. Why is that important, you might ask? If you can understand what makes you feel fulfilled, that's a great start. It will also help you understand what drives your behavior when you're at your natural best. Think back to those times when things just happen effortlessly. That's you at your natural best. And I'm sure you can all think back to days where things just happened. You didn't even need to think, it just happened. You were at your natural best. Well, how does that help us, you might ask? Well, it gives you a reference point going forwards, which you can use then for your decision making. It'll allow you to make more intentional choices, whether it be for your business, if you're a business owner, for your career, where you want to go to and what you want to do, life in general. And the plus side, you'll become more inspired by what you do. And obviously, when you're more inspired, you're more passionate. And when you're more passionate, you do things better. You're more creative. You see opportunities, not problems. That's where we all want to be. Now, how can we get there? How can we go on this journey? We could go for a bit of hit and a miss approach and hope that something connects. Keep trying different things. Chance of success, probably pretty low. In fact, you might never actually ever succeed. You might never hit on that thing that really drives you. Or we can go with intention, knowing what we want, understanding what our whys are, what our drivers are. That can let us focus where we fit best and where we'll be most inspired. Chance of success, much higher, because we've got focus, we've got personal fit, we've got enthusiasm, got passion to grow and learn. And if we've got passion to grow and learn and be positive, we'll do better. And also we will cope with setbacks much, much better. We'll be much more resilient. I know for me, the second option has a much higher chance of success and obviously getting me to where I want to get to. Well, I always like to think of it as a puzzle piece. We all are individual puzzle pieces, and we got different shapes and different needs. How can we find the place where our puzzle piece fits? Obviously, we're all at different stages in our journey, and for some of us, it might be quite a big change when we suddenly realize what we want to do, our whys, and where we are now. But if we understand what our puzzle piece looks like, at least we can have a clearer picture and focus on how we might get there. We might need to do some courses or learn some new skills, but we'll have passion and we'll want to do it and we'll want to grow. For me, this is a really important saying. It'll help us turn the impossible to I'm possible, because we have that different mindset. We have that passion. We have that drive. Our engine's really beginning to work because we are feeding our personal whys. What can you do to find out your why? Well, there are a couple of things we can do. Janine and Maria gave a talk a couple of weeks ago about identifying your values. This is really important. It's a really good starting point. You can Want to try and distill them down to probably your top 3 or top 10 at the most. I've put a link there for some example core value lists. There are many if you do a search on the internet. What you want to do, that's a really good starting point to try and distill your feelings, what drives you. Your core values will tell you what you consider really important or deeply meaningful. That is getting towards your life purpose and your whys, who you want to be. Another way is to actually ask your close friends, why are they your friends? What is your why to them? Obviously, pick your friends who you do this with. It should be the type you can call at 3 in the morning, because they'll probably think you're a bit weird. Why on earth are you asking me this question? But just persevere and explain you're trying to understand what is your why. What do you mean to them? What specifically do you bring to them? After a while, and you keep digging away, they'll come back and they'll say to you, you make me trust my ability, for example. You make me see common sense or something like that. That's them telling you the why that you have on them. It's your why in their words. If you want to do it in a bit more detail, and once you've got your values, the one way which Simon Sinek does is what he calls his peaks and valleys approach. What you're trying to do here is to dig back on your experiences to find, say, 10 to 12 of your really highlights and lowlight memories, things that had a really profound effect on you, positive and negative. It's important to do both sides. Then you can work through with a partner and talk through these experiences. It's important to get down to a low enough level. So what specifically made you feel that way about something happening? This is the golden thread, as Simon refers to it, which weaves through all those stories. It's your whys. It's what drives you. It's what's really important to you. The type of things you might like to think about are the pivotal moments that changed your life forever. What made you change? It might be a parent's passing. It might be some amazing event. It could be something you're incredibly proud of that made you really feel amazing. Or for a more common everyday thing, think of your best day at work. Think of your worst day at work. What happened? Why did it feel different? What was it that caused you to have those very differing reactions? Another one, depending on who you are, what was a time you gave of yourself to someone else after which you felt unbelievably good? You were walking on air. I remember I had a situation here in Shanghai where a Chinese lady left her bag on the motorbike and had her ID and everything in it. Now, obviously in China, if you lose your ID, it's pretty much the end of the world because everything runs on it. So I was just there, so I didn't scoot off in the bike. I hung around for 5 minutes, and sure enough, the lady appeared, and she was absolutely delighted that her bag hadn't disappeared. And so I remember walking around after that thinking, wow, I literally was walking on air. That was an example for me. So if we think about that, well, what's the benefit of having done all these things when you do your why? Well, you'll actually find a huge big benefit. From a personal perspective, you'll understand what fulfills you, what is it that drives your internal engine, what gives it that energy to perform. So you can do more of that. That pushes you into a lovely upward spiral. We've also heard in quite a few talks that you are affected by the 5 people closest to you. They have a big influence on you. Well, if you know your why, you can find and make sure you have 5 people that have a really positive influence on you. And that again will push you into an upward spiral. You'll be more, as a result, you'll be more happier and fulfilled. And have you noticed when you are happy and fulfilled, that great positive mindset? You see opportunities, you don't see problems, you keep going, you're much, much more resilient. From a career perspective, if we think about that, If you understand what fulfills you, your jigsaw piece puzzle, as I refer to it, you can find where your jigsaw piece puzzle is going to fit better. What kind of jobs, what kind of companies are going to be a better fit for me? So I'm going to be inspired. I'm going to enjoy it. And if you're inspired, you do things with passion, you do it so much better. End result, you still go in that upward spiral. If it means you've got to do a change in your career, you've got a better focus of what you need to do to get there. Remember that journey we were talking about a little bit earlier? You'll know how to get there. I suppose one way to look at it, it's a bit like giving yourself a map. How am I going to get from A to B? Again, you're happier, more fulfilled. And when you have passion, you really do things and you go places. And when you go places, you get that fulfillment and you'll feel happier. It's that roadmap to get you going. So from a personal perspective, understanding this will give you a lot more structure, you'll be a lot happier, and you'll do things that you really enjoy. I'd just like to add that obviously companies also have a why. If you live that purpose and you have those values and you make them very clear, you will attract people, hopefully, with which those values resonate. And if you get those people and they're happy there and they fit, their puzzle pieces fits, your company is going to absolutely fly. They'll be creative, they'll be passionate, and they'll provide an amazing service. So for companies, this is also really important. Once you've had a go at looking at your why, you might want to try drafting your why statement. 2, what is you contribute? What do you contribute to somebody? So that what's the impact of your action? What is it that drives you? Now, don't expect to get this right first time and you'll tinker with it and play with it. For me, my why is to inspire people to believe in themselves so they can realize their full potential and not be held back by self-doubt. I know there are probably a few of you here who are doing the positive intelligence course. It's to keep those nasty saboteurs at bay. That's what it's all about. So for me, I love watching people grow. That joy when you see people blossom, it's amazing. That's my fuel. That's what makes me alive. I love it. And that's why I do training. I hope you found that useful. I've just put a few links here. As I said, I'm a Simon Sinek fan, and I make no bones about that. I really resonate with what he does. There's a very famous talk, which is Golden Circle Talk, which is one TED Talks. He's also obviously written quite a few books. The one obviously that's very useful is Find Your Why. And there's a very useful one for leadership as well, which I really enjoyed, which is called Leaders Eat Last. I've put a link here for the personal core values, but if you look on the internet, there are quite a few examples of this. So this is just one of many. And then finally, there's my QR code and my email, should you wish to get in touch or want any help with finding your why. And that's really all from me. Over to you for any questions or any thoughts you might have. Hopefully that was useful. But I think, as you'll see, if you find your why, you can really get that internal engine of yours flying, and you'll go in that lovely upward spiral where everything looks a lot better and a lot brighter, and you're in a much happier place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mark. This was definitely extremely helpful. And thank you for sharing links. You mentioned that you might share this in the groups later as well,
Yep.
right? So if
Yep. No, happily do that. Happily do that.
there you go. Yeah. So thank you for that. And as we said earlier, like I think that this is a topic that we always come back to, through different topics. We always go back to like, okay, but why are we doing this? So I especially like the peaks and valleys idea of the exercise. I think I've seen this Gordon Circle talk. I haven't read Find Your Why yet. So that might be going on my list of things to read. But yeah, Simon Sinek has a lot of very good food for thought, especially on purpose and why we do things. So thank you so much for sharing, Mark. Now, guys, it's your turn. Please do get in contact with Mark. As we mentioned, he's also in all the WeChat groups. So he'll be sharing some information later as well. But now it's the time to ask any questions, or if you guys want to share what you found useful, or if you have already worked on your why, what is that? Or if you want to share. Let's open the floor. As usual, you might want to unmute yourself if you want to speak, or you can type it in the chat that I have to pull up so I can see what people are saying. There we go. Yes, Yolanda.
Very important. I love that smiley on that one slide.
It's important, very important.
Yes, that's what I said. No, but it made me so happy to see that smiley. Yes, what I liked is like that you also mentioned to go inside, like, okay, inside the times where you had the lows, because I do think that they, especially these times, I mean, I even gave a speech about it, but especially these times are actually letting you rethink and recognize and maybe even reshift like your way to go. So I do think that I'm happy you mentioned that. So because it belongs to the natural circle of life, right? We don't live linear. We're having up and downs, and I think when we equally like appreciating these ones, but keep on the why. So thank you for the reminder today. Then it's really great. Yeah. So I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I found it great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, one question is like how to sit down and really seriously do what you just mentioned to do.
Great question.
Yeah,
my
you
first
need
guess would be find yourself a coach.
Yeah.
Well,
I do think that is helpful. Yes,
that will definitely help. But yeah, you got to make the time. Yeah, there are lots of us here who can help you on that, but it's really important to make the time and to take that step back to really start digging deep. And that's why the peaks and troughs, I think for me is a very good, it makes you go back to things that really affected you, as Yolanda said. So it's but you need to make the time to do it. It's not something you can do in 5 minutes. You need to put the time, but it's worth the investment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark, for sharing. I think someone else had a question. Wait, I saw something in the chat. It might be. Or wait. People shouting here. Sorry. No, my chat was being weird. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or any other sharings regarding to the why? I've seen, well, first, thank you. I love to see people on camera. That's always super nice. So we don't just talk to the void. I see Arlene, you're unmuted. I'm not sure if you want to ask something.
No.
No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining. We're happy you're here. Okay, all right. So I think that something that it was really interesting is that other than the peaks and the valleys approach is also like the asking your friend why you're friends with them. I think that that's a really interesting exercise to do. And I would really love like if anybody tries and do that and then like comes back with the findings, it would be a really interesting exercise to do. But as Mark mentioned, do it with your friends who like will like take the time to actually answer you and not just think you're a weird person because you're asking that.
I have a question. The whole thing actually, because now it was more like referring to the business wise, right? So, but the whole thing actually could also be like for a relationship.
Yeah.
So like, you know, for more like the life aspects, because some people they're actually also living their passion. So work is not really like just work, but even these people, I belong to them. I think there's even more important to do that why thing, because you're just like living authentically and your work is expressing who you are, but then it's also very difficult to actually find yourself with more clarity in your work journey, because it's so aligned to your life. And but with the relationships, yeah, that is so you think I could do that also for when I'm in a relationship, sorry, that's so far away, but if you're married or if you're like whatever, like in a relationship, and then like finding the why together as well. Do you think it's adaptable, like to find also an own, like a
Yeah, I think it is. I think because if you think what's the fuel that makes you feel amazing, make you feel alive? Relationships no different. Obviously, it'll probably be some common interests that you do, something that you both love, something that gives you both joy. Because obviously, if you're looking for somebody, then you need to find somebody who enjoys that as well. Because if you're going to spend time with them, there are going to be certain things that are very important to you. So it makes sense to understand what those are, then hopefully you're more likely to find somebody who has similar interests. Equally, obviously, if you are exactly in a relationship, it's what's the thing that's attracted you in the first place? What is it that made it amazing at the beginning? Are we still doing those things to keep that fire alive? The relationship's no different on that side of things. So I think, oh, you still there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that it definitely applies to people as well. And I sometimes think we forget that side.
That's a great point. And also, like, Mark mentioned a lot of different, applications for this. Of course, it could be like to find your career. It could be to find, the better projects to work on, to find people to work with, and to find friends, for relationships. And it really depends on how you use that. But once you find, what is important to you, then you almost can never, disengage with that. Like, it's always going to stay with you, and you're going to reflect that, and you're going to notice in different areas of your life, whether that's, and also, like, everything is really about people anyway. Like, whether you are regardless what business you're in. I mean, for most of the people that are like, in the same industry as I am, in the coaching and training and consulting and self-development, it's mostly about people. But really, anything, it's about people anyway. So finding people who resonate with you and your why, whether it's your team, your clients, and so on. It's the people, your friends, and the people you're in a relationship with. It's always like, it will always come back full circle, and it's going to be important in different aspects.
Yeah. So I think it's more like, I think about when you apply for the why, it's more like, what's your motivation, intention at the beginning? And it also comes with the approach. So I think this kind of why are helpful to think about at this stage. Are you, whether in a relationship, your business partner, or your client, or your team, whether you are happily together, or you achieve win-win situation, and where to change, make both feel like happy, or no one is just like sacrifice, or even they feel like they're just there to support you, but they still find it's more like people find the value, not just the sacrifice, or they just contribute. They don't get anything here, otherwise they got a good pay or something else, or resources coming afterwards. Yeah, so that's how I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very well said. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think also when you do find your why, it makes you a lot more resilient, because you're looking for the positives coming out of things. So the bumps on the road aren't actually such big bumps, because you are seeing things from a much more positive place.
Absolutely. And Mark was mentioning in the, sorry, is that Kieran?
No. Yeah. So just a quick question, Mark.
Yeah.
Awesome session. It's pretty refreshing to get to understand what is my why for today. But my feeling was like, why does my why keep changing so much, right? So what do you have to say about it?
I'd probably say you may not have dug deep enough to find what your real whys are. You're probably one step away.
Because there's this externally you're so influenced, your opportunities kind of look different every time you see them, right? So is there a scenario, is there a kind of a trend that you see when people ask you how soon is it good or bad for their whys to keep changing?
I think once you really understand what drives you as a person, I think you'll be able to filter out those external influences and things better, because you'll know which ones are make you respond, make you more positive, that feed your internal engine, and those ones which don't. And when you can see the benefit of what feeds your internal engine, I think you can become a bit more circumspect. I think one of the challenges we have in modern society is we have so many of these external influences coming in through social media and things like that, which, if we're not careful, will influence what we do. So it's a little bit like going to the positive intelligence course that we've been doing. It's all those external saboteurs. Well, you shouldn't do this, Kieran. You should do this. This is what society thinks. But if that doesn't make you happy, that's not going to actually get you going. It'll actually push you down. So it's important to try and realize that if you work on what makes you happy, you will actually get better at what you do because you're more positive, and that will get you places, and you'll start going in the right direction, and you'll start seeing success, improvements, and you'll be more positive, you'll be more energized, you'll be more inspired, and that will show through in what you do.
I think to me it's slightly different because if I do well today, I really want to do better tomorrow, right? So my why keeps changing more for that on an optimistic scale. So sometimes you absolutely feel failure, or rather you are setting your bar high. That's the.
But then, Kieran, might it be your why is to improve yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think going to some of the positive intelligence things, that's going to be your part of your controller and things like that, trying to play. Just going back to a course that we're doing separately. So for me, that sounds like a little bit of saboteurs are running around in your mind.
Maybe.
I remember that Kieran last week, when he was joining the talk that me and Janine did about the positive intelligence, you then went and did the whole, positive intelligence portion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's also very strange because a lot of the people in the call are taking the course, so that's the coaching side of it. But it's something that, like, the more I talk to people, I just talk about positive intelligence like all the time, which I think it's something that's really resonating with a lot of people. So as we mentioned last week, me and Janine are going to do like follow up of that on the Sage perspective next month, because I think that's extremely connected to like defining your why and finding what resonates with you. Once you realize that, the negative influences that sometimes we put on ourselves are not helping us finding what really we want to do. Because as Mark mentioned, we're conditioned by a lot of things, like by our circumstances, by the people we associate with, by the experiences we had, by social media. Gosh, don't even let me start on social media. But it's important to like sift through all of that to go and find what's important for you. And then once you find that, how do you then listen to, the sage, the positive side of your brain, instead of everything else that's trying to put you and others down. And that's so important to deal with that. Well, in the meantime, if you guys have any question, please do pop them in the chat or unmute yourselves. I just wanted to share a couple of things, because we'll be talking a lot about how we see things and how perspective is so important, like finding through the lens of your why is that important to you? For anybody who's interested and who wants to know more about even NLP and like at a master level, and the Motivate community, Chris and Adrian are running the Master Practitioner NLP this week, actually. So if you're interested, do check it out. I think more than 10% of the people on this call are NLP certified, just by randomly looking at the names. And it's something that's really interesting to go through our own mental processes to see how we look at things and how we relate to the situations and what we tell ourselves and what we tell others. So it's really interesting. So do check it out. Again, if you're in Shanghai, in the next 2 weeks. Ooh, it's in 2 weeks already. All right, that's exciting. We'll have the Monday Morning Motivation 2-year anniversary party. I think, again, a few people in the call are going to join. We're going to have a lot of past speakers. We're going to have a lot of snacks, a lot of the people in the community, and it's going to be fantastic. So if you are in Shanghai or can make it to Shanghai, please do join us. We would love to see you there. And we haven't had a offline event in a while, so this is going to be a big one, and it's going to be really, really fun. Yes, Matan, question. Want to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
First of all, thank you, Mark. That was awesome. And for people who actually do finally sit down and try to ask themselves their why, do you have any advice about process to make sure that the answers that they get are going into the core, the real core of why they're doing stuff? Because I think a lot of people, when they answer themselves, especially at the beginning, people who are not coaches or doesn't have a background, the why is many times on the surface level, right? It's not connected to to their needs or to their values. So any advice on process for people regarding that?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think that's where looking at the peaks and troughs, which Simon Sinek does, he's trying to get, when you look at that, you look at the emotion, because to get down to what really, really drives you, it's what creates that huge emotion, that feeling. And you're really right, Matan, is lots of people will think, and they'll think, this is my why, but go back to that particular situation that you're thinking of. What was the feeling? Did it have a really strong feeling inside? Did it trigger a really strong emotion? And those are the ones that are really connecting with what your whys are. And that's why it's something that will take a bit of time. It's a bit like peeling away maybe the layers of an onion to get down to those examples of situations that really did have a very profound effect on you. So that's what you need to get down to. What are those situations that gave you an incredible emotional response, whether positive and negative? And that's why you need to get down to emotion. And so if you can use someone, a coach or someone to work with you who can ask those questions to make sure you're getting to that level, that will be a big start. On your own, it's very hard, I think, to get down to that deeper level.
I think that's a really good point. And if you can get yourself a coach to work through that, that's fantastic. If you can't get yourself a coach, but maybe ask the friend who you would call at 3 a.m. to ask you the really tough questions. Just keep asking. Remember when you people have children, that children keep asking why, and they never really stop. Right? I think that's a really good approach. It can feel annoying, but if you keep asking why to everything, at some point you will get down to a deep enough level that you're like, okay, well, we can't go any deeper than that. So that's one approach, but definitely having a perspective from another person really helps, I think, as Mark mentioned.
Why?
Because we have blind spots, Yolanda. Oh, I was expecting another why. It's okay. All right, fantastic. Anyone has any other questions for our fantastic Mark here? Well, let me take a picture because this is lovely. There we go. Everybody bright and early in their cameras. It's all nice. All right. So if nobody has any other question, I think that this was a fantastic session. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you for delaying and anticipating your dog walk to make time for Monday Morning Motivation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for joining. We hope that this was helpful. Again, Mark, as he mentioned, he will share some of the slides in the WeChat groups, and he will share some other content, especially the links for like all the resources that he mentioned, the Simon Sinek, and then the values list, the why list. If anybody has any question, feel free to ask. Ask in the WeChat groups. We're all there. Thank you all so much for joining. We'll see you again next week. We're going to have Karina. Karina, you there? I don't know if you're okay to talk, but Karina is going to talk next week about trust. So it's going to be very, very exciting. And for everybody else, have a fantastic Monday. Thank you so much for joining, for the questions, and for the really nice discussion this morning. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.